Morning, everybody. Happy October 20th. Sorry about last week. I forgot until I was literally reminded on the weekend that it was Thanksgiving last Monday. So that was unfortunate. So apologies for
Canadian
last Monday.
Thanksgiving. Yeah,
Canadian Thanksgiving last
right.
week. So I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of really good food, as usual. It was just the food at Thanksgiving, just is second to none, man. It was so good. Kind of fell out of the turkey game a little bit, which is fine. Don't have a problem with that. Got a lot of stuffing in, and a lot of the side dishes were what I was there for.
Fantastic.
It
Yeah.
was the main attraction. So, but it was
Love
good
that.
getting to see everybody again, and it was good. And so, I'm doing like Thanksgiving part 2 next week when I'll be in Ottawa for the game, as the Flames will be in Ottawa, so I'll be there for that. But
Fantastic.
doing like Thanksgiving part 2 with my actual, like my immediate family. So
Love it.
that'll be good. Yeah, hope you had a good weekend. Sorry about your Giants last night. I already talked about that already. Big game 7 tonight. We already talked about it too with the Jays tonight against the Mariners. Who you got though? Who's winning?
Uh, I'm gonna go with Toronto. I think just because they're at home.
Okay.
The way that they've constantly bounced back you know, from different, situations, whether it's losing a couple of games, somebody getting hurt, just everybody steps up. And you saw it last night. They got off and rolling right away, and it wasn't because of the long ball. They got timely hits. They had good at bats. I think that was Seattle's best chance. I think just with the momentum that they had from game 5.
Right.
It's hard. It's always hard for me to pick the road team, regardless of how good they are. It's just there is something about playing at home that does, play a factor. And I mean, it's different for the Jays because you're playing essentially for an entire country. You're not just playing for the city of Toronto. You're playing. I mean, there are
That's
people
what the
who are
Raptors were doing too.
right. Exactly. I think about it in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors. Same vibe. Like everybody was saying, like, oh, how did these Toronto Blue Jay fans, fly from Toronto to Seattle? And I'm like, well, I don't think they were from Toronto. They probably came from Vancouver or somewhere in Alberta and came down to Seattle. That's because this is their team, right? It was like when the Montreal Expos were around and Toronto hadn't existed yet, that was Canada's team. And it's a big deal. So, yeah, I'm not going to go against the Blue Jays in this one, especially with Shane Bieber on the mound.
He's going up against George Kirby, by the way, on the other side.
Which makes sense. You're going to go best on best in this one, and it should be good. So I'm looking for a good game, and any excuse to not watch football is totally fine with me. So,
well, I still have to stay up late tonight because I got the Seahawks playing later tonight.
right.
And best on best. So I'm going to stick with my original pick and go against Toronto here because I had Seattle in the World Series. So I'm going to stick with that as I'm wearing the hat. Only reason I'm saying that is just like, yeah, it's best on best. I think for the Jays, if they get 5 runs tonight, I think they win because I think Shane Bieber is going to do a good enough job to shut these guys down. What scares me a little bit is that they thumped Kirby. I think it was in game 3 or 4, whatever it was.
Game 3, yep.
Yeah, in game 3, they thumped him in game 3 in Seattle. So the fact that they've already got his number is kind of like alarming already. But anyway, it should be a great game tonight. But I wanted to start it out today with a video.
Oh, God.
So for those of you that couldn't see, we had something that happened on Friday night that was absolutely hilarious. So here's what happened. Friday night, I got a free pair of tickets to the Sudbury Wolves of the Ontario Hockey League, right? And I go with my friend, we go and whatever, we're sitting up there, we're having a beer, and we're about I think there's 7 minutes left in the first period. I get approached by a man in a hot dog suit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. And he's like, and he's got a clipboard and he's got a piece of paper and he's like, hey, like immediately 3 seconds into the conversation, I'm like, oh my God, he wants to make me sign some petition. I don't want to do it. No, thanks. Don't know what I'm signing up for. Right. No, he goes like, do you want to shoot for $10,000? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Like, of course I do. So, like, okay, cool. At the 5-minute mark, meet me by the player's bench at the tunnel to head onto the ice. And I'm like, sick. Sounds good. So, Buddy goes up and records the whole thing. That's who was taking it. And I go down or whatever. And, like, I literally had 2 minutes to chug back a beer, by the way, too.
Love it.
And I'm like, all right, guess we're doing this. So, like, whatever, I'm fine. This is cool. Like, not nervous or anything. Like, whatever. Sure. I'm standing right beside the tunnel. I'm like in the tunnel basically, and the players were literally walking by. I was like this far away from them, and they're big guys, and it's like, what's up, right? And so they get off the ice. Okay, I got to go on the ice. I don't remember being on the ice. And the only thing, because, so you can't really see in the video, but the size of the hole that you had to shoot the puck in was the size of a puck. It's that big.
Right. It's small.
It's small. Right.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, I just want to hit the net. That's all I want to do. You can't kind of see in the video, but I hit the side of the net.
Yeah.
So I kind of accomplished that. And I'm like, all right, just like get a decent shot off here. And I did for the most part. It was kind of on line, and then it just trailed off a little bit at the end. So I was like, okay, whatever. But I was still a winner at the end of the night because I got 4 tickets to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, good for you. That's great.
Got off the ice, and I proceeded to get drunk that night. So I threw that out, and I sent it to Dylan and everybody, my family, and they were like, what the hell? Like, this is so funny. Dylan's like, Kyle's just completing side missions in his life now. Like, it was really funny. It was very funny.
So you don't remember that like at all, that you did that?
No, like you're confident, you get out there, and then you're standing in the middle of the ice, and you're like, fuck, I gotta do this now.
Was it like, did you feel nervous like when you got to like center ice and you were gonna do it? Did it like hit you in that moment like, oh shit?
Yep. Oh yeah. The second I stepped out there, I was fine all the way up to stepping onto the ice.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta do this now.
Yeah.
Because nobody really, like, at that point, like, you're expecting people to go to the bathroom, and like people did go to the bathroom, but I'm looking around and I'm like, there wasn't a lot of people that went to the bathroom.
No, I see that. I see that at NHL games as well. Like, people are always like, I feel like for so many of us, the goal is to just hit the net. Like, it's not even about like getting it in the net, like, although that would be phenomenal, right? Yeah. But like, how often does that really happen to like anybody? Like, it happens so infrequently that even if you just hit the net, like let's say you take a shot and it just misses, like it hits the board, and people are not going to boo you or give you crap for it if you do that. But if you like, and I've seen it, if you sail it so far wide that it had no prayer of even coming close,
they're going to be on you, man.
They're going to get on you. My favorite is when someone is overthinking it, trying to finesse, and it ends up being this really, really slow like shot that doesn't actually even get to the net. And it just stops so much. And you're like,
so like I accomplished 2 things, and I was proud of that. I wish I hit the board on the net, but whatever. Right. Like, it is here. And you got
free tickets to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think that's pretty good consolation prize.
And they don't expire till next year. So
so there you go. There you go.
It was really cool. It was
maybe you should plan out Flames Leafs in Toronto and then spend a day at the Hall of Fame. I think that would be a good trip.
If Toronto's prices go down, then I'll do it.
You know, it's so funny. It's so funny living in the New York metropolitan area, because I get exactly what you're saying about like overpriced tickets, regardless of who they're playing. Because like when the Rangers, it's like every game you're spending at least $75, $80, $85 for one ticket, and the Rangers could be playing the fucking Utah Mammoth.
Exactly.
And like, I'm like, why? Like, I don't want to spend this much money to go do that. So,
I was okay because we spent, when we go next week to see Ottawa and Calgary, we spent $50 for a ticket.
There you go.
I have no problem with that. Yeah. I'm not going to Toronto. Like, the lowest for Toronto, Calgary would honestly be like $175.
That's that's crazy.
And you're up in the roof basically. So no, it's ridiculous.
I think I spent like 50 something per ticket when my dad and I went to a preseason game in Toronto a couple of years ago. And they were playing the Habs. So that was kind of like a big That was a big game. And that was, I think I told you, that was the same day that Aaron Judge tied the all-time record for most home runs in a
Yeah,
season
you mentioned that.
in the
That's
American
right.
League. And I was down the street from it. But I mean, I was still like, dude, I'm spending so much for a preseason game. What is this shit? Like, this is actually ridiculous. And I was staying at the hotel across the street on Maple Leaf Square. And I'm like, I shouldn't have to pay this much to go to a preseason game. Like, I shouldn't.
Too down there too. It's
The hotel was actually very affordable.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
The ticket itself was absurd.
Time of year, and yeah, I got it.
September.
So anyway, long story short, that was fun. It was great. Glad I did it. No regrets. And we ended up getting very drunk that night, so it was worth it.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. Great time overall.
It was good. It was sick. So it just encourages other people to go to the game because you never know what can happen, right? And that's why, like, I didn't think for a second something like that could happen. Anyway, so
no doubt.
It was good. Yeah. So you mentioned before we jumped on. Let's get into some Flames talk here. So last time we joined everybody was before the season began. We are now 5 games into the season. If I'm sorry, 6 games into the season. Excuse me.
Yep.
Wow, our predictions are going to be really wrong this year. They're so bad. But we got a lot to talk about today, and I think the first thing that I wanted to bring up, and you mentioned it beforehand, we'll briefly talk about the Vegas game. Not really much to talk about, but I think it's all kind of summarized here with what Kevin BX is saying. So hopefully you guys can kind of hear it okay, and I'll show you guys here on our end. This was after the game on Saturday night. Flames ended up losing 6-1 to Vegas, and this is what Kevin Bieksa had to say about one of the Flames players.
The concern is if you're losing games and guys are not giving it their all. That's what I would be worried about. You know, the culture of the team. Like, it's one thing to lose, but it's the way you lose. So, like, this is a 6-1 game. I'm going to pick on Sharon Govich. Watch this effort right here. Down 6-1. I think he apologized. I literally think he apologized for almost running into Carlson there. Like, I would absolutely lose my mind on the bench if I saw that. And I don't even know if the coaches saw that because there's so much going on. You watch that in the video, that's a culture thing for me. So I would show that clip in practice and I would say, where are my guys that care? Where are my guys that care about losing? I'll play Longberg. I'll double shift Longberg the rest of the game. If that's the way guys are going to compete, Klapka. Like, play the guys that care. If you're going to get an effort like that from a guy, get rid of him. You know what I mean? You're disgracing the NHL with an effort like that. Down 6-1, be a little mad. Like, as Brian Burke used to say, give a guy a dirty look. Yeah. Like, hate to lose. Like, I hate to lose more than I like to win. And that guy doesn't hate to lose, and I wouldn't want a guy like that. And I'm picking on one thing, and I don't know like how long his shift was. I don't really care, but that's a pretty glaring problem for me if I'm anyone in that team.
You can.
So, very blunt, and everything that he said was pretty much true. And
that's crazy, and that's crazy because I usually disagree with what he says.
Yeah, I mean, but in this point too, it's coming from a player's perspective, a guy who's been to the Stanley Cup final, and in my eyes, like, he's in his career, he was a great defenseman. He was a great piece for the Canucks. 100%. But it kind of goes back to, for me, when I watch that, I think about last year, and I think about the compete level. Right? Don't forget, a lot of the times last year, I don't think it's necessarily, picking on an individual here. Like, that's exactly what this is. That's what I should be saying, is the fact that they are picking on the individual here, and it is Sharon Govich here. Because what we've seen in the past is the reason why the Flames got to 96 points was because they were gritty and people didn't want to play these guys. Or, well, they did, but they didn't want to go up against these guys because of how stupid they were to go up against, because it was such a gritty performance every single night by these guys, right? You're getting contributions from everybody. And like he said, like, getting Lomberg out there, getting Klopka out there, you're getting guys who are pissed off and wanting to, push for the playoffs, especially in the position that they were in last year and the start that they had. Now, I don't think it helps with the season schedule that they had at the beginning. And this was going to tell us everything that we needed to know about the season going into it with these first 10 games of the year, because it's a tough stretch. And don't forget, they're playing the Winnipeg Jets tonight. But my conclusion is this. I've seen enough from Sharon Govich. Yeah. I have. I've seen enough. I think I honestly don't even really blame Craig Conroy for the contract that he gave him, because that's the type, like, he's working that hard on a contract year to get it, and now, like, that's the type of effort you're giving us. I get you're down 6-1. I understand that there's 40 seconds left in the game. And again, it's you're playing nothing hockey here for the last minute. But what are you trying to, like, give him a kiss on the cheek or something like that afterwards and just apologize, like acting all Canadian, like running into him? What is that? You have a perfect chance, just like Tom Wilson would have ran him over last night. He would have been pissed off. And BX said it perfectly. He's pissed off to lose. You don't want to lose, right? And it's weird because as much as I like, this is the type of stuff actually I want to see this year, is that screw it. If we're going to tank, let's tank. Let's throw Devin Cooley out there for a bunch of games. Let's double shift the fourth line like BX says. But it is, at the end of the day, get him off our team, because he does not show the type of culture that we are trying to build here. And it wasn't even about last year and the playoff run. It was about building that culture that these guys had already grasped, right? And I remember watching too, I'll throw it over to you in a second. I remember watching the behind the scenes stuff that the Flames put out on YouTube just before the season began, and they go into training camp and they show Mackenzie Weegar, right? They talked about Mackenzie and they talked about Kadri, and they were like, man, they were bum rushing us here, like in the early practices of training camp. And we were like, okay, like we're ready to go, right? The funny thing is that there were guys in that lineup on Saturday that I thought were good. I think that top line with Kadri and Huberdeau and Farabee, I thought they were actually a really productive line, all things considered. At the end of the day, I now know from watching him, I think there's enough evidence that I'm okay selling him or cutting his contract off. Because, like, the part that frustrates me the most is that, yeah, it's like players want to make their bag, but you got to live up to it. And he's clearly not living up to it anymore. And I like the guy, don't get me wrong, but that's not the message that we want to send. And I hope that Huska and them can show that video in the meetings or in practice the next day, yesterday, and be like, this is unacceptable. I don't care if we lose. We're going to lose some nights, but don't act like this. And that's what's frustrating the most. So I'm curious what your thoughts were on BX's said on Saturday night.
Yeah. First of all, you're mentioning Tom Wilson. That was a ferocious hit he put on Filipino.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
I know it's just not stupid, but like poor Filipino, like the guy just like cannot like avoid getting his what wrong every time he plays. Right. Yeah. He's a really good player, and I really hope he stays healthy just because I really like watching him play. Anyway, I didn't know. Here's the thing. I didn't know about what happened with the whole Sharon Govich thing until, and this is really funny. I'll tell you a very quick story. I'm in a Devils group chat, a lot of Devils fans, right? And someone shared it. Someone shared the video of Kevin BX like roasting Sharon Govich, because obviously Sharon Govich was in New Jersey to start, and so like with former Devils, we always keep our eyes on them, regardless where they are, who they're playing, and all that. So that's how I found out about that. I didn't know that was going. I knew that the Flames obviously got their, what's handed to them by Vegas, which I feel like now that's just every time they play them at this point, which is really frustrating. I agree basically with everything that BX has said, because I have seen that so many times where guys are just we're in a weird place, I think, in hockey nowadays, Kyle, especially in the NHL, where the younger generation of players are not the biggest fans of really stirring up shit and really they don't want to be assholes. They want to be like friends with everybody. They want to be able to do that. I think this is a major problem in the NBA specifically, but the NHL I think has a very similar issue. Where I think they're just
Saturday night.
There you go. This is a great example of that too. I mean, this is, and I see it from every team. It's not like it's one team or another. Everybody likes to use Florida as an example. Florida has a lot of guys that are part of the older generation, where like being physical, being an asshole is like accepted, and that's what it is. Like Brad Marchand, everybody, he's called the Rat for a reason. Like this is, Sam Bennett walks that fine line all the time, when he plays and things like that. Like, so when I see Sharangovich doing that, I agree completely that that's more of a culture thing. And that's more of like, this is almost accepted that this is okay.
Yeah.
And again, did Huska see it when it originally happened? Probably not. He probably wasn't looking, and that's not the fault of him. That's going to happen. But I'm sure at this point, he has seen the video.
You have seen that now. Yeah.
We're in the social media world. Of course he saw it at some point.
And I appreciate Beck Bieksa for bringing that up too.
Right. And at the end of the day, as a fan, you want to feel like that your team cares, even when they're getting their butts handed to them. Every team is going to get their butts handed to them at some point during the year. I don't care how good or bad you are, you're going to get your butt handed to you. Right?
Right.
I want to use a quick example of what I mean by the culture is different. The San Jose Sharks are still not that good of a hockey team. And you saw the way that they've lost some of these games. I think about that Vegas game on opening night. I mean, you had them on the ropes, and then you do whatever the hell that was at the end by
Delkovich, but anyway.
Delkovich, right? But you know what I saw, though? I saw a team that cared. I saw a team that wanted to still win the game and did everything they could. And you're seeing like that every night, despite them not winning. They still have won. Ryan Warsofsky literally just said yesterday, I will give up one of my children to win a hockey game. Right? And that's what it is. I agree with you 100%. The Sharangovich experiment is over. There is so much evidence at this point that it's not going to happen. And I saw this kind of play at the end of Sharangovich's time in New Jersey. It was the same thing. Lindy Ruff was constantly putting him on the bottom six, and everybody was like, why is he doing that when this guy has a rocket of a shot, especially on the penalty kill? Like, why are we doing that? Well, it's because the effort wasn't there. It wasn't consistent. It was like he'd have it for a couple of games and then it would go away for a long period of time. And yeah, he had a tremendous first year in Calgary, but it was, like you said, it was a contract year. And we see this constantly, Kyle. We see it constantly where guys, they have an unbelievable year, but it's in a year where they know that they're going to be a free agent at season's end and they want to get their bag. And I don't think Sharangovich is a crappy person or anything like that. I just think that he's one of those guys that he just doesn't have like another level to get to. I think he's basically gotten to where he is.
Yep,
and the fortunate thing for Conroy and co is that with the amount of cap space that they have even currently, and with the salary cap going up, finding a way to remove Sharangovich from this team, I don't see that being a challenge. I don't. I think that there are ways that you could do it. And you know what? I would much rather you call up someone else from the minor league team or one of your prospects and play them, because they are going to come in and have a lot more to prove and have that motivation, because I just don't see it from Sharangovich.
Grittin, man.
Why not? Right? It's, so yeah, I don't like what I saw, but I agree completely with Kevin Bieksa, because you might as well throw someone like Lomberg, who clearly doesn't like to lose and certainly doesn't like getting embarrassed. I mean, nobody wants to get embarrassed 6-1, especially in the National Hockey League. I don't care who you're playing. You don't want to see that. You just don't want to see that.
So it's funny. He has a 10-team no trade list for the rest of his contract. I don't think it should be difficult to move it. And honestly, this is something that you deal with in the off season. You don't deal with it now. But for the rest, I'm at the point. I'm not this is not the irrational, stupid fan here being like, get off my team right now. Like, could he eventually turn it around into something this year where he can score a couple goals here and there? Yes, but
absolutely.
There's a lot of things that you can change about a player's game, right? Physically, right? You can gain a couple extra pounds. You can build on some muscle. You can gain some weight, right? You can do a lot of different things. I find it very hard and very difficult to change somebody's character and the way that they operate the game, right? So to me, at the end of the season, it's over because you're trying to establish what you want to see from this team when the arena comes, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Now, the good news about all of this is that, okay, if the owner can now step up and accept the fact that this is where we want to go this year, fine. Then play Devin Cooley a bunch. I don't want to throw Dustin Wolf out into bad situations here. Let's get some of the younger guys up here. I think there's 3 things that this team needs to do this year, and I was thinking about it over the weekend.
Okay.
The Rasmus Anderson stuff is going to start to come up again, right?
Well, it's heating up already, yeah.
Right. Whether you sell them and get prospects back, I don't want to see picks, but whatever. If you sell them off or if you try to use them as a bargaining chip to acquire a higher level prospect, that's here nor there. That's a discussion for another day. The Anderson stuff will come up. I think by the end of the season, so we're talking the entire year here, that Sharangovich needs to go. At the end of the year in the offseason, you need to find a way to get rid of him. Because he's not going to be helping your team next year. Sorry. Yeah. We know who he is now. Go play for San Jose if you want to be like this, right? And that's what we saw. And lastly, I think at some point, whether it's this year or next, the conversations need to come up with Kadri. Because if this is the trajectory that we see this team going this year, and if they're lucky enough to be in the lottery to get Gavin McKenna or whatever, if it's a top 2 or 3 pick, which the Flames very rarely have, I think that, you're going to take the best player available at that point, which they should. Ideally, it should be someone offensively. I think at some point you need to move off of Kadri. Because you're going to see eventually, the crazy thing is that I don't see this team being far off to at least be a contender over the next 2 years before we get the new arena, right?
Right.
Ideally, the way I see it going is that, okay, you're still going to have a pretty sufficient defense where Uyghur is going to be the leader. You got Kevin Ball back there, who I still think is he's a good defensive defenseman. We'll see Zane's trajectory here, but Zane can be a very good complementary piece. So I'm not necessarily worried about the defense. I'm not even worried about Dustin Wolf, even if he has a bad year, because look what he's got to work with all of a sudden, right? It's the same bunch of guys, but now you got guys like Sharangovich who are not putting in the effort.
Sure.
So, and when I look at the offense, you can, and it's all hope and a prayer at this point, but everybody's screaming for McKenna. You can maybe get a very high draft pick this year.
You could.
Right? And establish that you still have time in 2 years to get ready for it, right? Because that's the timeline, and I totally agree with it, right?
Yeah.
Next year is going to be goodbye to the Saddle Dome. And at that point, it should also be goodbye to guys who are on expiring deals and letting them walk, right? Like Blake Coleman, I don't care if he walks, right? Like he's been with us, great. But it's time, like at what point do you start establishing that we need to start turning the corner here? So guys like a lot of the rookies that we're going to find coming up now, like guys like Reshny's of the world, Gridden, who had a great preseason, who I think is going to come back at some point this year as well. I'd like to see Rory back up at some point too, to see him playing a lot of minutes here. So there's a couple of guys I look at and I think that they can kind of replace, but also too, like, it doesn't mean you can't go out there, whether it's in this free agency or next, and go out and acquire maybe a top flight centerman as well too, if that's something that you're worried about. Or you can also go acquire a top 6 guy who can be a pure goal scorer as well too. So like offensively, I don't think that they're far off. And we saw it last year where, they only needed like just a couple of goals here on a team that was terrible. And we see it again this year. They can't score. They should have beat Vegas the other night at home when they were up 2-0. Right? How many times we look back the 6 games this year so far? I'm not surprised that they got rocked in Vegas. That's how it always happens. Frankly, they should have beat St. Louis. They should have beat Vegas, right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda meant anything in the world. They honestly should be a 500 team right now, which is crazy. And that's exactly who they are. But because of what's happened so far, this has to be the direction going forward. So it's tough to I know fans are begging for that. And I think every loss this year is going to be another win for us, but this is just the type of year that we're going to see. So having said all that, what I want to see out of this team is not what we saw on Saturday night from Sharangovich, right? I want to see, instead of the veterans here, this is going to be the perfect opportunity to get the younger guys up and complement them with the veterans. So getting Gridden to play more with Huberdeau. I'd like to see a bit more of that. I'd like to see Rory Kieran's up play on the third line center if something goes awry here. I'd like to see him at some point play with Blake Coleman. I'd like to see some of these other young, like, come up. Maybe Sam Morton, who had a good preseason as well, too. Let's see what they got, right? Because you're going to have the stage. The stage is going to be set for these guys to come up and have some meaningful minutes this year. And lastly, like with Dustin Wolf, like, I don't even blame him for any of the losses so far this year. I really don't. Did he let in a bad goal here and there? Yeah, but I don't think he's fully to blame on what happened.
Sure.
So, and I hope that he doesn't take it badly. And the good thing is that his contract hasn't even kicked in yet.
No.
So
he's set.
Yeah.
He's set.
So anyway, after a long rant, it's probably like the way that this is going, it's the best thing for this team moving forward. And I'm okay with that. And I've accepted that. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think anybody has a problem with it, especially Flames fans. But at least give a shit. Like Steve Dangle's rant he had the other night about the Leafs. Like, at least give a shit that you're playing.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if it's just me trying to be the optimist or anything like that. I think it's more just like, it's the cliche thing to say, but it is still fairly true. I mean, it still is fairly early in the season, right? I mean, there's still 76 games to go. But I agree with you that the one thing that I want to see more than anything is just the team showing that they care. Because it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to make it very obvious from an emotional standpoint and even just from a play standpoint that, like, you're mailing it in that obvious. That's the thing that nobody wants to see. You know, like, when you're a team that is trying to rebuild and you're a team that's trying to get back to a level that us as fans want to see them, which is competing and ultimately being a cup contender, during the process, you want to see that, like, okay, even though maybe the team doesn't have as much talent as we would like at this moment, we're still finding a way to compete. That was what made last year for a lot of us enjoyable, in the sense of, regardless of the fact that, like, the team did not have a lot of talent, they were fighting every single night. There were so many games last year, Kyle, that we could pinpoint to where they could have easily just said, we're mailing it in, we're not going to win tonight, this, that, and the other thing. Like, they pushed back. They pushed back. You know, you think about that game in New Jersey in March last year. They were down, and they could have easily just said, you know, we're not going to win tonight. They pushed right back, and they ultimately won. And not only did they win, they won in regulation. Forget, you know, overtime shit. No, they came back and won the whole damn thing.
They were one of the best teams in the league last year in third period comebacks.
And like you said, couple more goals, that team's in the playoffs, and who knows what could have happened. Probably not a whole lot, but still, you never know. Not a lot. Maybe they win one game and they get knocked out. I mean, it's just,
I still, it would have been nice just to give them that experience to just be there. Which,
absolutely.
Whatever. It's still last year. Like, it's still good to be in the hunt.
Right. But that was last year, and now we're in, and this is the present. This is the present that we're in right now. And it sucks. It sucks so much that this team is, as record-wise, as bad as they are, because I don't believe that they're as bad as their record shows. But as, you know, legendary NFL coach Bill Parcells once said, you are what your record says you are. And, like, that sucks, but that's the truth. So people on the outside are going to look at that and be like, well, yeah, this Flames team is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But we know deep down that, like, this team can be better. It's a matter of effort. And it's got to start tonight. I don't care about playing the Winnipeg Jets. I don't care. I don't. Effort. I want to come out and play pissed off. I want to come out and show that we're better. And you know what? If guys are still not carrying their weight, bench them. Put out guys that actually want it, like BX said, double shift lumber. Who cares? Who cares? It's not a matter of, oh, you know, Huska's like mailing it in this game. No, he's putting out guys that are actually pushing to want to win this game and want to do things. And I feel for Dustin Wolf. And you know what's so interesting, Kyle, is I've already heard it online. where people have given like hot takes, early hot takes, we're 5-6 games into the year. And one person said, I think so far with the Flames, we are being proven that Dustin Wolf really did carry this team last year. And so far, I can't really disagree with that because Wolf is playing as well as he can in the situation that he's in. He can't score goals, though. He's the goaltender. All he can do, and the thing that's so difficult, and you've seen it, Kyle, is that when a goalie feels like that, and it's obvious that his team is not being able to put the puck in the back of the net, the amount of extra pressure that is put on the netminder to make sure that they, don't give up a goal or two.
Huge.
It's difficult, and you're just in a really bad spot. So, again, look, it's still early in the year. We are still in October, but this sucks, and we want to see better. We want to start seeing wins. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And then, like, at the end of the day, effort is the biggest thing. I just want to see them play with, more, marbles, as they said in the movie Major League. It's like, you want to see them. You want to see, all these Pedro Serranos on this team play with more marbles. Like that's what I want to see, right? And however the chips may fall is how they fall. But if we can come back a week from now, Kyle, on this podcast and feel like that the effort was better and feel like that the team is starting to turn that culture and everything around more, that can go a long way. Whether the team ends up being, solid or not, the effort has to be there. So that's how I look at this whole thing.
Next 3 games at home to the Jets tonight. They are hosting Montreal, which is tough. And then they're in Winnipeg again. This team should be 0-6. Because they shouldn't have come back to beat Edmonton after all those bounces that we saw, right? Last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on here. You're not better than Vegas. You're not better than Vancouver. You're not better than Edmonton, right? I don't even think they're better than Utah, because despite losing 3-1 in a close game, they got shelled in shots. And frankly, I don't even think they're better than St. Louis too. So the question is, who are you better than? Who are you better than? And again, it's a long way to go. A lot of overreactions here, but still, it's like, at what point can you just accept that the owner, like at the end of the day, the owner needs to be the one to decide this is the direction that we need to go. Like if he's still in the mindset of this team can make the playoffs, we're doomed. We're screwed.
That's everybody's that purgatory. That's that purgatory you don't want to be in, right? You don't want to be a team that is not bad enough to get the kind of player that can really turn around a franchise. And you don't want to be in a position where also that you're still not good enough to go to not only get in the playoffs, but start competing. And like that was my whole thing with like the Detroit Red Wings for years when they had that playoff streak going, is that they were stuck in purgatory. Right. Because like they were not bad enough to get top picks, but they weren't good enough to go deep into the playoffs. They would get bounced in the first round every year, but hey, we got that streak going. Like you don't want to be there. And so the Flames brass has to make that decision. Where do we want to go? And once you make that decision, you got to stick by it no matter what. You have to. Because if you start flip-flopping, you're going to start seeing bad results on the ice. And you don't want that. I mean, if we're going to get bad results, we might as well know that there's a plan in place, right? Like that's a big thing. So, yeah, I mean, shout out Kevin Bieksa for that, because I think it was important for someone to say it and someone on the national stage to bring that up.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the start we've had. We'll talk a little bit more after the break here. Just going to do a quick commercial here, and then we'll be back on the other side. Football is back, and so is your shot at big wins. With DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL, your game day instincts can score you real money fast. Here's the play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks, and unlock the upside every snap brings. The better your calls, the bigger your payout. I mean, Jackson Dart definitely didn't hit one of those yesterday too.
Okay.
And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. This season, player bet, player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN. If you play just $5, you get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. You make the call, ride the upside. It's in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. You can call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. In Connecticut, you must be 18 plus age and eligibility restrictions vary per jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. You voided where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as a non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.com.draftkings.com/promos. So we talked about the present and we talked about what happened the last couple of days here and a little bit about what we want to see moving forward here. Realistically, before we move on to NHL news here, I know it's a kind of we've been talking about it all off season and, ever since really July 1st here, but I do want to talk about Anderson for a minute. Mainly because I'm really leaning to, and whether they do this or not, I don't know. And maybe if Craig has this or not, I don't know, right? But I'm really leaning towards, at what point do you stop caring about the draft picks and start caring about getting some top prospects into the lineup here, right? I want to know, I think there is some value to you got to target playoff teams, right?
Right.
And I think Vegas's first round pick should be on the table. I personally don't care about that first round pick anymore. Vegas's first round pick out the door. Don't even care that it's later in the first round. How many times have we had in the last couple of years 2 first round picks? At this point, I would rather see Craig go out there. I don't know what the market's like. I don't know what it could be like, but to eventually, when Anderson's name gets brought up again, to go out and use him as a bargaining chip and maybe a draft pick, and who knows, maybe a prospect too. I don't know what it looks like, but what would it realistically take? And I'm going to use Washington as an example. Whether they need Anderson or not is here nor there. But what would it take to drag a guy away like I'm not going to use Ryan Leonard here, but like an Andrew Kristoll? From a Carolina Hurricanes perspective, where they could use defense, what would it take to grab a guy like Bradley Nadeau, right? If you look around the league, and I'm not sure, I'm just spitballing names here, but on other playoff teams who have top prospects, what would it take for the Leafs to give us Nick Robertson? Not much, probably, right? Maybe not the best example in the world, but you get what I'm kicking at here.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a place for Anderson, and I don't even care. At this point, I don't care about him going somewhere and signing long-term. Don't really care. I think he's going to walk into free agency next year regardless, because it should matter for Craig now. I've got to find the best value for our team moving forward here with top prospects, and I don't give it. I don't. His target should be draft picks anymore. What are you gonna trade him to Carolina and just get a draft pick that's gonna eventually be 28th, 29th, or 30th? No, it doesn't make sense anymore for this team. You're gonna have at the way this is going, you're gonna have a top 3 pick, right?
Right.
So, at this rate, it's just I would rather start seeing some formulation, and maybe there's just guys like even Logan Stankoven, for example. I know he's not to the level of that trade value there where the Rantanen thing came down. But there's got to be somebody out there like that. And I'm sure if you do your digging, there is something like that out there that I think they can find with using him as that chip.
I think we talked about it in the offseason, and he's off to a really, really good start with Vegas this year. But again, I would put Zaforiev in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's my thing with that. And I've said it before. They have enough forwards. Okay? They're paying a crap load of money for, Mitch Marner. Now Jack Eichel, still paying a lot for Mark Stone. Tomas Hertl, just throwing out names. And if Vegas wants to continue to be what it is, which we're going to have to talk about them again in a minute because of some other stuff that they've done.
Yeah.
My thing is like, if they want Anderson that bad, right, which they have shown in the past that they kind of do, he's got to be on the table. I don't care. Because, first of all, Vegas has thrown out all of their picks anyway in a multitude of other trades. And I don't think Craig Conroy is stupid. I think he's actually a very solid GM, and I like what he's done for the most part. Maybe I would have liked to see more this past offseason in terms of getting the team where we would like them to be.
I think the only miss was the Hannafin trade, really.
Right. But I think that was a little bit more, I don't know, I would say maybe a little bit more panicky in terms of like rushing it to get it done kind of thing, because Hannafin made it fairly clear and made it aggressively clear. I mean, the thing about Anderson is that while he's made it clear, he's not like putting a gun to Craig Conroy's head and saying, this better get done. Right. He's letting the process be where
he's playing this as I'm a member of the Calgary Flames.
Right. And he also knows that he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and he'll have a chance to pick and choose where he goes anyway, unless he gets traded to a team that, wants to, that he wants to stay with long term. But I agree with you completely. The time for getting draft picks is over because they have enough. They have enough, and it's pointless. You now have to start, if you're going to make trades like this, you're going to have to start getting guys that that are proven young prospects that maybe in a year's time could play, or even young proven guys. Like, that's why I bring up Taforiev, because he's already proving in year 2 or whatever year it is at this point for him, that this kid can score, and this kid can score a lot. And it would be awesome to get a guy like him in Calgary where he immediately is on a top 6 line. Yeah. Immediately. And
I think he has to replace Coronado. If for somebody like 100%. That, like Coronado is a solid top 6 right winger, second line right winger.
I'd love him on the second line.
Yep.
I'd love him on there because you'd solve that problem. And I think that I know how Vegas is going to try to operate. I know how they're going to operate. They're going to try to lowball, and they're going to try to make it be like, well, Anderson only wants to go to Vegas, so you better make a deal happen. And it's like, my whole thing with Conroy is this. Get the best deal that you possibly can. That does not include draft picks. Once you do that, I don't care. Like, that's it. And we move on. Yep. And we move on. And we don't know we know most of the contenders, but there might be a team that comes out of nowhere that might, look at Detroit right now. I mean, again, 6 games in, but Detroit is 5-1, right? Now they might prefer to go after Quinn Hughes. That's a different story, but I mean, who knows? Maybe Detroit calls and we get some, I don't know. Like, I think right now you brought up a good point. I think right now it's hard to see what the market is, because I don't think any team is really thinking about that at this moment. I think it's still like, hey, we're still early in the year. We got to see what we got. We got to see how this goes. But I just don't want to see Conroy make a deal for Anderson for the sake of making it. I'd rather he push and keep pushing for a deal that works out for them and gets us good value back, because otherwise you're wasting your time. If you're trading Anderson and you're getting 2 first-round picks, just as an example, I personally look at that as a waste of time, unless you're going to use those picks to trade for somebody of value, which who's that? I don't know. We don't know. So
we're going to find out.
We go find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out at some point.
And again, I think this would be such a Vegas move, because they would need a guy like him to replace Alex Pietrangelo, right?
Yeah.
And we've said it before. The conversation starts with Dorfiev. If he's not included in this, go away.
Goodbye. Hang up the phone.
Stop letting Vegas take control of these trades.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I agree. Conroy's not stupid, and he's not going to let them have this because there are other teams out there that could use him, and they don't have to make a deal like that if he finds that, right? But the conversation has to start with Dorofeyev, and I think even further. But anyway, we've talked about it already. I think you did bring up a good point, though, and I did want to talk about it, and thank you for reminding me, actually, too, was that the other big news was the fact that we talked about in the last episode with the announcements from the five former players from the sexual assault case. They are able to sign with the team, and lo and behold, we have our first signing. I personally think it's the only one we might see.
I think it's the only one.
We're gonna find out, right? So Carter Hart ended up signing a PTO with the Vegas Golden Knights. Eventually, and honestly, it was funny because it happened right after the game against Calgary, where who's in it? Aiden Hill went down. He didn't return to the game. Akira Schmidt came in. He ended up shutting out the Flames. That's here nor there.
Because we're not.
But Vegas is noticing that now they're having a goaltending problem, and now they make the move like this. So they brought out a statement. And again, this is old news. This is about a couple of days ago now.
Couple of days, yep.
But I'll still read it out anyway. So Vegas put out a statement saying, following the reinstatement decision agreed on by the National Hockey League and the National Hockey League Players Association, goaltender Carter Hart will be joining the Vegas Golden Knights organization. The Golden Knights are aligned with the process and assessment that the NHL and the NHLPA made in their decision. We remain committed to the core values that have defined our organization from its inception and expect that our players will continue to meet these standards moving forward. So
I think that sounds so ironic, honestly, Kyle,
right.
That statement.
No, but here it is. Here's reality, Neil. Here's cold, hard reality for everybody here, right?
Yep.
I've seen all the comments from the day it was posted to today, and looking through some of these through Instagram now. I've seen all of the comments.
Yeah.
What people have said in the comments, it doesn't mean shit.
I agree.
At the end of the day, it means nothing. What people have said, whether it's shameful, it's bullshit, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. This is who Vegas is. Wake up and smell the roses. That the only thing that these guys care about are three things. And it relates back to every organization, but they just do the best job at it because of it helps with the location of where they're at, but they care about three things at the end of the day. Ticket sales, merch sales, and their TV ratings. That's it. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day, right? Why do you think Arizona/Phoenix ended up moving? They couldn't even fill a friggin' university arena, for God's sakes. So this is who Vegas is.
Yep.
This should not surprise people, okay? It dates all the way back to when they got rid of Marc-Andre Fleury. They don't give a shit about his feelings. They will go out and acquire guys like Jack Eichel. They'll go after the big names like Mitch Marner. The second McDavid hits free agency, I guarantee you their name's going to be involved in this too. If he hits free agency, that's here nor there. If he hits free agency, you bet his name's going to be out there too. And I guarantee you if they had to trade for his rights, they would trade Jack Eichel in a heartbeat if they were able to.
Yeah.
So, this is who they are. Right? And this is how the world works, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is exactly who the Golden Knights are. And guess what? You know who the real losers are at the end of the day? Us. For continuing to watch them on TV, for continuing to buy their merch, and for people who continuously go to their games. You want to say something, you want to do something about this. You want to stand up and make a statement for these guys. Don't go to the games. Don't buy their merch and stop watching them on TV. That's how you make That's how you make a statement. By saying this shit on social media, it means nothing. It holds no value. This isn't even against Carter Hart anymore. With the entirety of the case, it's over. It's done. They were found not guilty. Move on. That is reality at the end of the day. Sorry, but that's just reality of it. You have to have faith in the justice system, and this is how it works in reality. Whether we want to talk about EM about this, maybe that's a conversation for another day. But when it pertains to this, however you feel about Carter Hart, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, because this is the type of shit that Vegas is going to do.
Yeah.
And everybody should know this at this point. So like how you feel about Carter Hart and what he's done, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And frankly, I hate to say this. I hate to be the one to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's the perfect place for Carter Hart to resurrect his career. It's ideally the perfect place because the Golden Knights don't give a shit. They don't care. How many times have we seen it before, right? Like that on a long tangent statement here, they don't care. They don't care whose feelings they have to hurt. They don't care how they have to do it as well as an organization. They want to win. They want to get to the playoffs so they can increase their ticket sales. They can increase their merchandise sales. They want to get to the Stanley Cup final. They want to increase all of their ticket sales again, increase their merch again. And when they win again, if it ever happens again, like they did previously, everything else goes through the roof as well. They're going to host the biggest parties in the world for this type of shit. And everyone's going to forget about it. So that's how they run, man. That's how they do it. You want to make a statement and do something about it? Stop doing all three of those things that I mentioned earlier. And stop saying this stuff on social media because your feelings don't matter to these guys. So why bother saying it? You're wasting your breath and you're wasting typing it up because I think we feel the same of why Vegas would do this, but this shouldn't be a surprise at the end of the day.
No, it's not. I was a bit surprised about the Michael McLeod news where it looked like it was all said and done, that he was going to sign a PTO with the Carolina Hurricanes, and then he ends up signing a 3-year deal in the KHL with some team. I don't remember which team, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I believe
Carolina backed off.
Carolina backed off because I think they probably saw let's call it backlash from some of their fan base. I saw a lot of it. I saw a lot of Hurricanes fans. I know. No, I'm not defending it. I'm just bringing up what I think
I understand
is the reason.
My point real quick is even if they were to sign Michael McLeod, like would the backlash have been that big to the point where people are still going to show up to their games and continuously the three things that I mentioned earlier?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? Is that I think there are many. I think the majority of people in general, right? They don't want to deal with it. They want to win, but they want to win in what is called, quote unquote, the right way, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say. Vegas is exactly what every single hockey fan wants their team to do. Regardless of anything, win. Regardless of anything like that. Like that's really like the big thing with this whole with all of this is that Vegas did what Vegas does. Doesn't shock me in the slightest that they do this. And what's ironic about it, Kyle, is that they ended up signing somebody in a position of need. Mm-hmm. They need goaltending, especially with Aiden Hill getting hurt. Akira Schmidt right now is going to be your guy moving forward. I don't know who their backup is at the top of my head right now, but at some point, Carter Hart is going to be a Vegas Golden Knight and is going to be playing. Who knows how good or bad he's going to be at this point? He hasn't played in the NHL in a few years now. Yep. We talked about this, right? This might be a total failure of a move. But you know what? More than anything, Vegas is saying, we just want to win. And we're going to do everything in our power to win. And it's ironic. The reason I say this statement is ironic, Kyle, is that they say, oh, we believe in our core values, this and the other thing. It's like, respectfully, you don't really have core values because you've proven it over and over that, like, in terms of how your fan base feels or how people in general feel or even maybe how your players feel, you're going to do it anyway.
I don't understand why they made a statement. Honestly,
they don't need to. They don't need to.
The statement.
Like, have a press conference if you want to say something. Like, do that.
Yeah.
Right. So do that.
They didn't even have a press conference.
No. And look, again, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, these players were found innocent in a court of law. That like the judge decided that. That's what, right? And so I don't like it. I don't like how it all went down. I wish it was clear. I wish, that's what I wish. But now we're beyond that point. We're beyond that point, and we just have to say to ourselves that this was coming. Regardless of where Carter Hart was going to sign, whether it was Vegas, maybe even Edmonton, hell, even Carolina, they had been talking about potentially bringing him in. Doesn't matter. This was going to happen. We knew this from the start. And at the end of the day, as much as people don't want to talk about this, Vegas doesn't care that much at all about your feelings. They don't.
Nope.
Because like you said, Kyle, they care about ticket sales, merch sales, TV coverage, and winning. That's all they care about. It's all that matters to them.
Yep.
And
they don't care how they do it.
Right. And you wish in a perfect world that people would do what people might say, quote unquote, the right thing or the moral thing, whatever. Not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody, especially in a business. It just doesn't happen. So for Carter Hart, it's this. It's a tough position for him because he is getting another opportunity to play in the NHL again. And if he's innocent in a court of law, right? And only he and the other people involved in the case know exactly what happened. They know that.
We'll never know.
We don't know. We only know what we're being told from, reporters and everything. At the end of the day, does Carter Hart deserve a second chance? Depends on who you ask. It really does depend on who you ask.
Yeah, of course he does.
At the end of the day, the NHLPA.
Why would it depend on who they ask? Just curious.
I say that because there are people out there that are going to say, regardless of the decision that was made by the court of law, that this person doesn't deserve another chance to redeem them, to redeem themselves. Right? The only way they can redeem themselves in a way is what they do outside of the rink and how they go about themselves outside of the rink. There's nothing that they could do on the ice for a bunch of people that's going to rectify what had happened in the past, if that makes sense.
So somebody who's committed a crime and whatever it may be, and they've served, let's say, 10 years, and they get out of prison, do they deserve a second chance? Probably. But and the reason that I say it depends on the person, depends on who you're talking to, is because there are people out there that are going to point the finger regardless of anything. And especially with what the charges were with this, in this kind of situation. This is always a tricky thing to talk about. Sure. But
it always is. It's different if like the dude, here's what's messed up, Kyle. It's different if somebody, quote unquote, off someone else and then goes to jail and serve time. That's a different discussion.
It's
depending on the crime, it's a different discussion. That's what it is. So,
if he served time, let's say they were found guilty and they served 5 years. If 5 years down the line, if Vegas did this, does he deserve a second chance? You know what I mean? I think both scenarios there where we live in today's day and age, right, where they weren't found guilty and he signed, or if he was found guilty and was signed, I don't think it makes a difference at all. I think he does deserve a second chance because either he would have served his time and it shouldn't matter about the public opinion, or in the day and age that we live in now, he didn't have to serve time because of the processes that they went through the judicial system. That he should deserve a second chance, regardless of public opinion.
Regardless of that, and that's where we're at.
To me, it doesn't matter about public opinion, really.
Yeah.
If an organization like this in Vegas doesn't matter about public opinion, why should Carter Hart? You know what I mean?
He doesn't. Look, at the end of the day, for Carter Hart, he's looking at this and saying, I'm going to a place that wants to give me a second chance. That I've talked to, I've discussed with, and that's important. And look at even some of the comments that some of the players on Vegas have said. They said, we're going to do, everything in our power to welcome this guy in as part of our team. And do what is necessary. And good on the players for saying that, right? Because and look, we don't know how it's going to be in the locker room and everything, but I'd say this. Carter Hart wasn't a well-known player in the NHL and a good goaltender before he obviously,
He probably would have started for Team Canada.
He probably would have started for Team Canada. If he was like some of the other guys who, like, no disrespect to them, but like are not big-time NHL players,
yeah,
I don't think that he would have gotten this opportunity. And
sure.
again, it's Carter Hart, and listen, every team makes their own decisions. Every team operates differently, and that's just what it is. And you know what? Here's the other thing I just want to say real quick. Just because a team didn't sign the player or any of these players doesn't mean that they didn't think about it at some extent or another.
Yeah.
People say, oh, like, here's an example, right? Oh, I'm a Florida Panthers fan. Like, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about that because, everything we don't need any of those players. And it's like, well, what if you did? What if you had a hole in your lineup?
What if Bobrovsky was gone for the year and your backup was the worst goalie in the league? Right?
Brings up a good question, doesn't it?
Right? For Flames fans, like, what if Dustin Wolf was gone for the year? You gonna roll with Cooley and Probstev the whole year?
Yeah. That's what if
everybody could have been in that situation?
Right. What if Carolina was without Freddie Anderson for the whole year and you had to throw Peter Kachekov?
Well, you have Kachekov, and I think they would have rolled with Kachekov, but still.
Okay, that's good. What if you had neither one of them?
I understand the point, though. No, I get it.
No, I know. I'm saying, like, oh, what if you didn't have either one of them?
Here's the real kicker in all this, though. Okay, here's the kicker. The team that's 2 spots ahead of Calgary in the standings here, dead last, right, is the LA Kings.
Ooh.
Drew Doughty has a 7-team no-trade list. Who would be surprised if the Vegas Golden Knights went after him at the deadline if the Kings continue in that trajectory?
They would.
Because they need it. Because they don't have Pietrangelo for the year. Because Doughty only has 2 years left in his deal, and that would be enough.
I'll give you a better example, Kyle, and this is going to be crazy. You're going to fall off your chair when I say this.
Oh, God.
What if the Canucks really have a bad year?
Oh, God. Right? No, they would
you
never.
You think that Vegas is going to call? No, I'm just. You don't think they would call? You don't think Vegas would try? I think they would. I think, honest to God, I think they would. I'll tell you why. I'll give you a reason why.
Okay. If this was next year and he was in the last year of his deal, I would buy that. Not now.
Don't be. Look.
I'm not arguing they wouldn't kick
the
can.
There is nothing that Vegas won't do. Right.
We saw it with Tom Ashertle, right? Like when they surprised everybody with that move. So I agree.
Because the Sharks that signed him to a long-term deal and we're thinking, okay, he's going to be in San Jose the rest of his career. Wrong. Everybody said, oh, and granted, COVID messed up a lot of things. But I don't think anybody thought that Alex Pietrangelo was going to end up leaving St. Louis and go somewhere else. Wrong. I don't think that. I mean, look at Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, right? Well, Mitch Marner's a little different story, but like, you think they care? They don't. They'll do whatever it takes. Hell, if Connor McDavid was on the trading block, you don't think Vegas would do everything in its power to get him, like you just said?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If the Oilers don't end up winning a cup in the next 3 years, they're going to be knocking. They'll be knocking on the door.
And this is right. And this is the reality of who Vegas is and who they will continue to be.
Yep.
We all thought a couple of years ago that they were finally going to get their comeuppance, right? That they were finally going to experience being a mediocre to bad hockey team.
Nope.
They don't believe in that.
Nope.
First of all, they play in Vegas. Vegas is all about taking risks.
Right. They don't care about prospects. They don't care about their pool. It's every year if they have a bad year, which will come eventually, they will do whatever it takes to reconcile what happened and move forward with it the next year to get better, like to just get back to the top, because that's who they are.
That's who they are, and
it is a luxury for them to be in the position where they are. Location, man.
Yeah, location. Everybody craps on Florida, right?
Yeah.
Everybody craps on Florida and say, "Oh, no state income." That's this, then the other thing. I mean, you know what's a good example of a team with no state income tax that it's not working out? Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle's been mediocre since their first year. Well, since their second year. Excuse me.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of teams though start well early and then fall off. Like Anaheim did it last year a little bit. Like Seattle, like they're still a 500 team if you look at their overtime loss. Like they haven't lost in regulation, but they're 3-2. So if you want to look at that, like a lot of teams are 4-2. Like I like Utah right now, but anyway, we're getting away from the point here. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, no point in leaving comments, guys. There just isn't a point.
All we could do, I hate to say it,
it's a waste of time.
Right. And this is so random, but I have to step out for a second, so I don't know if you want to continue a different conversation until I get back.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
I'll wrap it up. I'll wrap it up while you just step out. So like that's just the reality that we're in right now, is that to summarize everything that we said was that it doesn't matter what side you're on here, whether you're for Carhartt or against or whatever the move they make. This is the type of thing that the Vegas Golden Knights do as an organization. And it's something that we just got to live with, people. It's unfortunate, but that's the day and age that we just have to live with it. So I won't spend too much time or longer on this. I think we kind of talked about it enough. So we'll kind of move on here. We'll get really quickly to other NHL news that kind of happened around the league over the weekend. The Red Wings have kind of figured it out a little bit now. Red Wings have now won their fifth consecutive game, beating the Oilers yesterday. Oilers have now lost 3 straight games. Some people wondering about the Oilers a little bit now. Another bad start to the year. Joel Quenneville made a return to Chicago the other night against the Blackhawks, as it was the first time back since being banned from the scandal. So I wonder how that was very well received. Marner ended up, again, just some of the news that happened the other night here. Marner ended up scoring a pair as the Golden Knights beat the Flames. And then the other one, I think that was probably the only other meaningful story, was Anthony Stolarz getting run into by Mason Marchment. He was run in earlier, and none of the guys stepped up for him here. And all of a sudden, Stolarz pushes the net over, and chaos ensued afterwards. But you want to talk about a team who doesn't have a real identity or DNA, or you want to talk about a team that's in writing is just a team. That's what the Leafs are at this point, because Stolarz is the only one who really cares, because Carlo won't go to bat for him. Nylander will skate away with his stick on his knees. And I believe I can't remember who the other guy was in the scrum, but for some reason they just didn't know how to fight back or fight in general here. So, like, I don't blame Stolarz here at all, because he's the only one that actually gave a shit that night. And I think, you guys probably saw already with Steve Dangle's report on what kind of took place on Saturday night. That's not the type of DNA that you want to see within that team. And that's just kind of who they are. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is for the Leafs right now. And until things maybe change within their own culture, it's still going to be the same old Leafs, because they don't have any fight back. I mean, you saw what Brad Marchand did already we saw them over the weekend when they were in Buffalo. He took Dahlin's helmet and ripped it apart in the penalty box. Like, that's the type of team that Florida is. And then you watch the Leafs and that happens. If that happened to Bobrovsky, Marchand would have been all over Mason Marchment and just beating the crap out of this guy. Like, again, it relates to the conversation that we had earlier about Sharangovich, but again, like, it just comes down to the type of culture that you want to build within your organization there. So anyway, we're going to leave Neil out of it here for a little bit here, just because I think that pretty much wraps everything up for today. Neil will say his goodbyes and all that, and it's all good there, unless he's back now, which is great. I was just about to wrap it up, Ashley, because I think we kind of covered enough today, unless you had final thoughts on Anthony Stolarz the other night in Toronto.
I'm trying to remember what he did.
With him pushing, so he pushed the net over and nobody came to fight in his defense. Right.
It was you remember that? You remember, like, years ago? Remember when, like, Henrik Lundqvist did that? Like, he was pissed at, like, the ref or something, and he was, like, trying to get his attention, and so he just decided to just push the net over.
Yeah.
Kind of similar a little bit to that, but like, yeah, that was strange.
The
Very
Leafs are still
strange.
the Leafs. The Leafs are still
The
the
Leafs are
Leafs.
still the Leafs. See what they do tomorrow against good old Sheldon Keefe. Makes another return to Toronto. I don't know if you saw the comment. It's really funny. It was like it wasn't even a jab at the Leafs, but like after the Devils home opener last Thursday, they beat the Florida Panthers. Somebody asked Sheldon Keefe, what was the difference between home opener last year and like this year in terms of that? And he goes, we didn't play the Leafs. Which I thought was funny. But yeah, I will say this. The pressure in Edmonton right now is crazy with like the results they've been getting recently. Like this past weekend was tough. Like, just want to say, but still doing better than our Calgary Flames. They're still doing better than our Flames. So,
So over the next 3 games, guys, again, we have Monday night here at home against the Jets. They're going to be at home against the Canadiens.
Amazon, by the way, because it's Monday night, right?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I think it's just Sportsnet for tonight on the Canadian
legal
side.
stream, here I come.
Habs will come over on Wednesday night, and then they'll be in Winnipeg on Saturday for Hockey Night in Canada.
And big news for Montreal with Caden Gooley out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with an injury.
Yes. So I still think they're going to be tough. So it'll be fascinating to watch these next 3 games and to see where they're at here. And we might have a fun conversation next Monday. So that'll be pretty much it for us today. We'll see what other news takes place this week. We'll see how our team does. Good stuff as always, Neil. And we will catch everybody next Monday.
Later, guys.
Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week, guys.